Now, they can accept that, and if they refuse to accept that, then they've got a responsibility. I have said to Senator Harris, this is a shared responsibility. I'm willing as governor to take the lead, and I did. But if you won't accept what I put forth as the path forward, then you've got a responsibility to do more than just say no. You've got a responsibility to come forth with your plan for how we're going to have a balanced budget. And that has yet to happen. I am waiting for an alternative plan.
Governor, you said that these senators voted in 2007 on something so similar, and this makes it look political. You authorized an expansion of the lottery last year. It's very similar to this without asking legislative approval. How is that not political?
It's quite different for several reasons, and I've tried to explain those. One, you know, if you take the letter from the racetracks, if these folks don't have confidence, they're not going to make the investment. So, you know, I think that reason alone shows a major distinction between Keno and between this. But I also think that there are other distinctions, and we've tried to lay them out. We need legal protections that I think legislative approval will give us. We need confidence on the part of potential investors, which I think legislative approval will give us. And I just do not believe that we can get the money we need to lead us to a balanced budget without legislative approval. This is not an ego thing. Quite frankly, a few days ago, there was probably a point in time when I had some ego involvement here. But I've moved past that, thankfully. To me, it's the practical consideration of whether or not this will lead us to a balanced budget or not. And all of the information that I have available to me indicates that in order for this to give us the ability to get the resources we need to have a balanced budget, that it has to have legislative approval.
What is the investment that the racetracks are being asked to provide? Is there a minimum capital investment that they have to make at these tracks?
I don't think that is a part of the language that we're asking to have in the budget. What we're asking to have in the budget is simply giving me the authorization to proceed and making sure that the venues are limited to the 7 racetracks, and that any contracts would be at least 10 years in duration. Those are the elements that we are being told from the investors they need in order to have the confidence to move forward. Many of the details obviously would be implemented through the rulemaking process.
Governor, you last year legislative approval, but yet that's still tied up in court. How is this different from keeping this proposal from that money getting tied up in court?
Well, I think they're two different issues, because that other one involved some contractual matters. Kent, are you still here?
Yep.
That issue involved contractual matters that are not a part of this process. Would you say, Kent?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest difference is that has an issue as to whether those monies have been placed in trust or not. Obviously, we still think that the position of this state,
taxpayers in the state of Ohio, is that this interim budget has a bigger budget cost than the biennium budget would. So funding it at 70% over 7 days is more of a drastic cut to the budget than the overall biennium budget would be under your plan.
Because, John, it's not a comprehensive solution, and it's the best attempt that we can make not to dig the hole deeper. But if we were to have a solution that was more comprehensive in nature, some of the cuts that are being implemented under this interim budget would not be as deep as they are.
Governor, you said that, I know you say you don't want to talk about too many specifics, shouldn't be cut quite as deeply.
Well, what I put forth was a framework, and if you were there when I put it forth, I said, this is not the end of the process, it is the beginning of the process, and that there will be further work. And I fully expected that there would be, and there has been, but I don't want to get specific in exactly what those modifications may be.
You mentioned that there are some aspects of government that are going to be exempted from the 70% cut.
Yes.
Is there going to be a net 70% cut in the budget, or will it actually be more or less than 70% because of the
Is Perry
exemptions?
still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes. Did you hear the question, Perry?
Vaguely.
Is it a 70% net cut, or is it actually going to be less than 70% because of the fact that there are exemptions?
It will be less than 70% because there are exemptions.
Budget then are exempt from it.
Well, we only have appropriations for 70% of the ALI and House Bill 119 after all reductions times 1/52nd. So we have appropriations for 1 week. For most agencies, we believe they will have enough money to make payroll, and that's about it. We will need to make exceptions for each one of the subsidy payments as they come up.
Did you get your question answered?
Not
Yes.
exactly, because the education and Medicaid and higher education are all big ticket items.
You know, two responses to that. First of all, that would be hugely unrealistic. And number two, those considerations are not things that I've entertained. That may be hard for some of you to realize. Listen, I've been through enough campaigns. I know. Dick Gephardt said to me one time, Ted, doesn't make any difference what you do when you're in office, what you vote for or against, because your opponent will say whatever your opponent chooses to say about you regardless. So you ought to just go do what you think's the right thing. You know, there's going to be, you know, plenty of things to fight about in a campaign, and so I don't worry a whole lot about that at this point.
Do you know why President Harris has not provided alternatives? Has he told you this is why we're...
I have no idea. I mean, you know, it's been well over a week since I presented my framework. If there was, you know, thoughts that this was not acceptable, I don't know why they have not. But you know, I mean, it's puzzling, is it not, that when there is this shared responsibility, and I put forth the framework, and there's no counter offer, so to speak. There's no counter proposal. They're just simply saying what you propose is not acceptable. Oh, but it is acceptable if you do it. I mean, think of this. Perfectly willing to use the resources that the VLTs would bring in if I were to do it without legislative approval, which I think I cannot do. Doesn't seem to be any objection to using the resources to balance the budget. In fact, Senator Harris was quoted in the paper as saying that they would factor revenue from the VLTs into the budget, but yet unwilling. I don't understand that kind of behavior. It seems like I just don't understand that.